be here, and delighted to be engaging in the opportunity to once again focus in on and bring forward these amazing ancient Aramaic principles of forgiveness and bringing them into every form that we possibly can that makes them useful, as Dr. Tim was talking about the different wisdom schools. In fact, in the article that I read yesterday, I just wrote a paragraph that spoke of the depth of understanding the brain cells required to even fathom this work, and that without the ancient Aramaic wisdom keepers, I mean, I get people who tell me, oh, Michael, what you created is so great, but without standing on their shoulders, without the information we're given that we came to understand through the Aramaic, there would be nothing here. There would be nothing worth talking about. It's so clear. So I can't fathom anybody who's going to start from scratch, from zero, with a brainwashed mind the way this culture has made hostility and fear seem like normal states of mind when in fact they are pure mental illnesses. They're just, I mean, if you know, one of the questions we'll often ask people, or we used to ask people, we were traveling and we'd have a group and we'd ask people, how many of you have ever done something you regret? You've probably been in one of those groups where we did that. And so people will put up their hands and they'll tell us about what it is that they regretted. And then we ask, identify what your emotional state was when you did that behavior. We've never had anybody say, oh, I was in pure, perfect love. Now, I've had people say, oh, we did it for love, and what they really meant was out of jealousy and possessiveness and the energies that go along with the errant definition of love as, you know, sexual athletics or self-sacrifice or what have you. Every time. Now, I'm not sure why it took me so long to understand this, to build the brain cells to be able to say this to myself, because that's where this started, this idea that, if I'm in hostility and fear, I have a mental illness and I have work to do. Because the mind can trick us into, oh, I'm only feeling this because of what you said, because of what, well, yes, I have been through this 87 different times with 42 different people, but I'm still only feeling it because of you. And the brainwash is so deep, but think about it. If you look back at everything you ever did that today you regret, and it was done out of hostility or fear, does that not make hostility and fear a mental illness? I think it's time for that to become common knowledge in our society. Because in our society, it's thought of, oh, well, you know, he's just an angry person, or she's just, No, actual mental illnesses that debilitate the human mind. And the thoughts, you'll think back to the work we did just a couple of weeks ago from the dictionary in the Enlightenment book. And we look at that word demon, or what's been translated as demon by the Greeks, and we don't find some creature with some sort of weird body that comes from outer space or inner space or somewhere else other than from me. We don't find that at all. What we find is that a demon is a complex of thought disorders made up by a human mind and the projections of those thought disorders. So to me, the more I interact, I had a conversation recently with someone about this topic, and it's just like, it's just getting more and more clearly defined that if people will simply acknowledge to themselves that when they're in some form of hostility or fear, and they need to restore their minds to love, to sanity, there will be huge advancements made. Now, there'll be some people, I'm sure, going to be very upset when they hear me say it, because they're like, well, my father, my mother, my spouse, my kids, well, we're all angry, so you're telling us we're all mentally ill? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. You're mentally ill. If your mind isn't functioning out of love, your mind is in a diseased state. Now, it's taken me decades of working with this work to get to that conclusion. But it's just so clear to me as I look. And some people, when they're told they have a mental illness, might become very insulted, and there will be another piece of work to do. Oh, okay. So notice how often in your life you've been insulted. You think something out there caused insult in you, but if you're insulted by me telling you that if you're angry you have a mental illness, that's because you have a reality in your mind called insult. It's not because I've insulted you. I can't insult you. Insult is just a fabrication of the human mind. I had someone the other day who said some things to me that I can remember a time when I would have thought, wow, that's really insulting. I mean, talk about degrading. I can remember a time when that's what it would have been. And I looked at it the other day and I went, so this person's telling me about the challenges they are having in their minds. They're not telling me about me. So if you forgive insult in you, then you can't be insulted by anybody. If you forgive hostility and fear, then nobody can make you angry. Nobody can make you afraid, because nobody has ever made you angry or made you afraid. If you've been angry or afraid, it's because you have a mind that contains realities of anger and fear. You might remember this guy, Paul, a couple thousand years ago. There's a lot of what Paul said that didn't make much sense to me, but this one, he really hit the nail on the head. He said, if I have not love, then I'm like a tinkling cymbal. There's nothing to me. If I am not functioning out of my human life, if I cannot bring forward, bring present the active love that I am, then I have a problem. And we've been weaned on a Greek mythological world that says, if I have a problem in me, somebody else is the reason for it. You've heard me say many times that by the age of 4, the average person is a card-carrying member, very devout, of the one world universal religion of blame. Very, very religious people in their blaming. They blame people religiously. But can you sit and breathe, and if someone brings up something less than love in you, someone says something, and it's probably going to be someone close to you, can you take a breath and go, wow. Now, I want to think and talk about them and what they just did, but what I need to realize is I lost connection to my human life. I lost the presence of love in me, not because of their conversation, but in response to their conversation. And that response belongs to my mind. When I own that response, then I have the opportunity to heal. Another thing that's been really becoming clear to me, especially as I've been working on this article that I read yesterday, and I would love to have anybody's comments or thoughts on it, but it's just becoming so clear to me that life is so tuned, that life is so willing to bring us healing, that every circumstance is going to bring forward an opportunity for you to review what's going on in your mind. And the stories you tell yourself are stories that come from your mind. And if they're stories that take away the experience of yourself as love, if they're stories that, quote unquote, feel bad, if they're stories that have you, quote unquote, feeling bad about other people or feeling bad about yourself, then you realize there's an energy dynamic within you that causes that. And it's not caused by what's happening. It's not caused by the stories. I think back to the disciples who, when Yeshua told them what they had to do their inner work, said, "Too hard a saying, who can understand this?" And they left. And that article that I read yesterday, basically I wrote in response. One of the things I imagined was speaking to that group of disciples. And what brain cells did they have to build to understand what he had just told them? And to recognize that words are a key here. You remember, as I pointed out several times, there was so much disturbance. I mean, I would love to have been a fly in the room the day that those disciples said to Yeshua, "Tell us what we need to do to please the Creator." And Yeshua told them, basically, you have to go inside and clean up your life. I mean, the disturbance in the room. You know, he may as well have said, "Harry, you need to clean up your rage. Hortense, you need to clean up your guilt. Bill, you need to clean up that terrorism in you." And he went on, the disturbance in the room was so horrendous, we don't know exactly the number, it just says many of the disciples left, and there were 12 still there. But the disturbance was so great that he said to the 12, "Are you guys going to leave too?" And I can imagine that space. Okay, when you start asking people, when you start guiding people's nose to the truth of what they're saying, if you really listen to your words rather than the projection on the words, and you guide people's noses to that, the resistance is so monumental. Don't make me look. Go back to that scene that I've talked about so many times in the movie A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, where this writer is sitting. He's supposed to be writing a story, true story, for Esquire magazine. And the guy asks him about his childhood, or Mr. Rogers asks the guy about his childhood, and the guy literally gets up and walks out of the room. He just can't handle it. It's like too hard a saying, and he was asking about a toy when he was a kid. But what he was doing was he was resonating the space that he held. He was resonating pain of this man's childhood, and he couldn't stay in the room. He could not listen to the conversation. And these are the power person dynamics that ultimately need to be worked through. One of the things that I would suggest that everyone do is do that codependence worksheet. Clearly identify what your power person is, what your punishment is, what you're going to do when that comes up for you, and then make it your number one commitment to life whenever that comes up, to step into the healing process rather than play that out and believe what your own mind says. Because your own mind will not likely say it about you. It's going to say it about somebody else. And when you puke that on somebody else, when you think they should be doing what you want them to do, following your goals, control trip. And then when you degrade them because they won't follow your control trip, look at how your power person degraded you and notice the stress that is your disease. That if you don't resolve it, will end up in some way, shape, or form destroying you. But it's a hard saying to hear. The projections are profound. But if you get the blessing of somebody being able to knock out of awareness the presence of love in you, and you look at and embrace what's coming up, when that happens, it's your healing opportunity. You know? Notice your mind can easily, and been probably doing it all your life, making it about them, somebody else. Notice the attacks you've done that you so regret today to the people you cherished. And until you confront those attacks and become conscious of them, you still do it, but you don't believe you do it. Because you got a story about how it's somebody else's fault. That's the game of projection. That's the game of dissociation and denial. So I'm not sure exactly where that came from, but Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
No, it is all quiet. So several people on the switchboard. Somebody presses 1, you're first in line. We had a hand just go up.
Oh, great. Let's go for it.
All right. It is area code 314. You are on the air. Who do we have?
Hey, hello, Michael and Jeannie. It's Doug. How are you?
Oh, hey, Doug. Long time no hear. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm in Iowa, and I can't guarantee that my cellular coverage will be consistent, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay, you're pretty good. There's a little bit of waver there, but I can understand you very clearly.
Okay. So I am driving back from spending about 2 weeks with Dianne. We started out in Iowa at a tango dance weekend retreat, and then I took her home, and yep, I'm heading back, and I just wanted to chat about, see if I could do some some more process forgiveness healing on, you know,
let me guess.
Endless issues.
Let me guess, Doug. You got to have more opportunities to learn forgiveness while you spent time with this lady that you cherish so much.
Yeah, because I enjoy her. I don't like leaving her, and because I want more than she does in the future.
You like leaving her, do you?
Oh, God. This is so crazy!
Yeah. So it sounds like some work to be done on your file on leaving and perhaps being left.
Yeah, I think so, because I just get sad and I want something different, and it feels like it's the flow of life that we should be together, and you know, and I need to stop upset about that. I need to cease and desist. You know, embrace my life alone, and you know, that's the emotions run really strong for me around it, and I've made progress, but my goodness, it's still not over at all. So I just when you know, it's interesting. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to add one last thing. I talk too much, but I think sometimes. But you know, when I'm with her in her presence, I have cultivated what I think is a condition of seeing her as love that is so beautiful to me that I just, you know, I just enjoy that experience. So that's it.
Sounds like it. Maybe inspires you to lament that you don't have that for yourself.
Yes, that it's not a living experience all the time. Yeah, I see it outwardly, right? And I see, okay, that's beautiful, and I like that, and I want to constantly enjoy my life in the presence of that person, because then I'll feel that, right? Because I'm not feeling it sufficiently alone.
So then...
Are you still... Yeah. Okay, I'm still connected.
I'm with you.
I heard N.
I'm with you, and what I'm hearing you say is that you see this being that's connected to love, and it's so much light and so much beauty, you really enjoy it. But still hold the belief that that is outside of you and has to come from something outside of you, rather than you having the experience of that within yourself. And listening to your regulatory speech, when you speak about, I don't like leaving, I suspect there's probably some serious work to do in the file in your mind on leaving.
What does that mean? I mean, how...
Well, I could
I like
propose
leaving?
a few scenarios.
I actually like leaving?
No, that's not what I said.
Please.
I said there's something in your file on leaving that needs to be resolved, and that is one of the things that comes up in blocks, your experience of yourself living in that experience for yourself.
Okay, yeah.
So I could easily throw out a few scenarios that, my mind comes up with that it might look like something like, Mom and Dad were heading out the door and told me I couldn't come, and when I kicked up a fuss, maybe I got a beating or degraded, or it might be something that went on 10 generations ago in the bloodline when, somebody who was totally and completely committed and connected to their whole family were out on the Western Prairie and the whole family was wiped out, and there they were left on their own. It might look like, 1,000 scenarios, and fortunately Yeshua gave us the key to how to get into that file. You look at, there you are looking at this beautiful light that you enjoy so much that bathes you and replaces your own ability to supply yourself with that light. And when you leave, there's a file in your mind that shoots up whatever's in the file on leaving, and there's a goal that drives that whole process. So the goal might look like, I would like to be in the presence of this woman for eternity. Or...
That's a good one. Yep.
It could be 1,000 different goals, and when you clear that one out, when you cancel that goal and drop into your file on leaving and look at what the root is that blocks your light, that might be the end of the whole process.
So this wound would be, or this pain, this around leaving would be like something because of an uncomfortable leaving or separation, probably. It doesn't mean that I like leaving and I'm saying I don't like leaving and I really mean I like leaving. It means that I have pain in my file around leaving from past leavings or departures, probably of some sort, right?
That would be my take. There's some variation on the theme. There's something in that quote-unquote file in your mind that holds pain, that resonates and blocks your ability to be in exactly the same space she is in, of that place of connected to the love that she is, that what inhibits you from connecting to the love that you are, so that you can be in her presence with that sweetness and with that awesome space, and you can step out of her presence, and because you have it too, you carry it with you. But as long as you're looking for her to fulfill it, you'll tend to create a repulsion energy to push it away.
Okay, there are two things there that are like, what? Okay, the first one is just that I'm seeing two things, okay? Energy in the past about leavings that's traumatic or that's painful or that's corrupt, and then a whole another set that also feels very true about, and maybe they're related in some way. You can help me see how they are or not, but that is pain about the fact that I feel like I need to be in her presence to feel that connectedness, and I don't want to be without that connectedness by being out of her presence, which is certainly, a huge. I think that's, they're both probably active, but that feels, I need to become. It's like even her communication to me is that I want to be. I like her too much. I enjoy that too. I need to have more of what is that I'm completely independent, self-reliant, connected to the God, divine flow when I'm on my own. I don't need her presence for that. That's a really pivotal piece of where I need to go in my growth, I know. And then the last thing you said was the third one, which was, at this moment I'm not that clear on what that was, but it sort of confused me. So
something outside of you confused you?
Well, I felt confusion come up because I guess there's energy there. I don't know.
Yeah. So
can you reiterate what the last one was or not? Go wherever you want. I'm listening.
Well, my thought was, if you remember the Power Person worksheet in the Codependence Workshop.
Yes.
You might want to do a Power Person worksheet around this and see just what the dynamic is there.
I'm seeing how an element of that is loving to be with my mom or loving to be with my dad, and then feeling that there's love there when I'm there, and then feeling a lack of that when I'm not, in this moment. It's like, okay, that's a connection for me.
Yeah. So the bottom line conclusion then that I hear you starting to toy with to clean up is that I need somebody else's connection in order for me to feel connected.
Yeah.
And that could be a Power Person message that goes something like, well, one of the first Power Person messages that most of us got was something along the lines of, you're broken. There's something wrong with you. You'll never be good enough. You'll never make it. Whatever that dynamic is that comes from the Power Person. And it sounds like you're perhaps approaching that again on another level. And as you forgive that message, forgive as to that message, then the energy that blocks you having what every human being has, or pardon me, is designed to have, and that is that full effervescent experience in their physiology of themselves being the active presence of love, rather than having to go get it from somebody else. And maybe the Power Person dynamic was that you observed your Power Person. Maybe they passed that message on to you because it was a message they got. I'm broken, and I can't have it unless. And what kind of conflicts did that create in the household, or that you observed?
Oh, yeah.
We can't have conflict-free relationships until we're conflict-free beings.
And so these energies are blocking, these non-being energies are blocking my access. They tend to block my access to the unbridled flow of the divine love that I should be able to, otherwise ideally would, let's say, feel all the time on my own. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's something I heard in there that really
that's
felt
pretty close.
Important.
Yeah, that's pretty close. I would express it maybe a little bit differently, that this is an energy that I use to block my connection to the fact that I was made in the image and likeness of the Creator, as Dianne was.
Right.
And I watched that with Dianne, and vicariously, I get it from her because I don't have my own.
Yes.
And ideally, to me anyway, a real relationship is one where two whole beings come together and create a synergy that takes things to a whole other place that neither of us could do on our own. But if I come to the relationship as a half a person, and I admire the fact that they're a whole person and they've got it all, then I become codependent with them for something that I don't have for myself that I'm designed to have for myself.
Yes.
What's happening with your breath?
Well, I think I'm breathing because the content is it's on the mark. It's excellent. It's helpful. It's good.
Cool. The thought that comes is go back to when we covered in the Codependence Intensive the Power Person worksheet that ultimately became a 14-page Power Person worksheet. I'd get that worksheet out and I'd do some work around this whole idea with that worksheet because that one just goes so deep in unraveling the Power Person dynamic. The thought disorders that comprise that dynamic.
Very good. Yes.
And free of that, you'll look in the mirror and you'll experience that whole effervescence that you quote unquote see, feel, experience, intuit, whatever it is. When you're with her, you'll see that that surrounds you totally and completely. It's like it's the wholeness that we're all designed to be in. And while we enjoy seeing it in someone else, we can't get it from them. We can be distracted. It's kind of like a drug. We can be distracted by it and go, this is so wonderful. I don't have to feel what's going on inside of me if I can stay connected to this kind of wonderful. But you're designed to be that kind of wonderful on your own. And then, from there, create the fire that is relationship. Otherwise, the tendency would be, the underlying dynamic, I would suspect, would tend to be something like, I can't have it, I don't deserve it, I'll never be able to have it, whatever it is. And that very dynamic would be the mind energy signal that would say, you have to go away because I don't deserve this. I'm not supposed to have this. I'm not allowed to, I can't, I'm broke, whatever the Power Person message is. So I think that you'd really find doing some of the Power Person worksheets from the Codependence Intensive around just this whole conversation. Maybe sit down with a couple of blank ones and go back through and listen carefully to your words and the conversation here and start to make notes and look at, what are the subtler energies. When I listen to your voice, I can think of times when we've talked about this issue previously, and there's been a significant amount of strain, stress, and pain in your voice, which I'm not hearing now. If I thought of it in terms of degree, I can think of times when on a scale of, say, 1 to 100, the trauma in your voice was maybe an 80, and today, the trauma in your voice might be a 5. So, it sounds like you've made, or seems like you've made a lot of progress, and you're not finished with this one yet. And I think that Power Person worksheet will be the place to go with it.
Awesome.
Otherwise, there's a part of you that will tend to, on an unconscious level, keep sending out that high energy wave that says, I don't deserve this, I'm not supposed to have this. Don't you know that? And whatever that, it could be something 10 generations old. It could be something that happened in the womb. It could be something that happened at 2. Who knows? This is the kind of dynamic when you're getting down to these sort of subtleties that those disciples who walked away from Yeshua and never went back said, who can understand this? Too hard a saying. We're out of here. And the beauty of it is it's not to be understood. It's simply a piece of work to be done. You know, to sit around and beat our heads against the wall and try to figure it out. Again, that's the number one pseudo-solution of the non-being mind. It's not about figuring it out. It's about what's the next piece of work I need to do here. Because you're made of the same stuff she is. You have every attribute, every energy that she has that you find so beautiful and attractive. Now, of course, she may have some different body parts that make it even more attractive on another level, but that's a different issue.
Right, different issue, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's the character and then all of my interactions with her and how beneficial I find them to be, you know, that, yeah, this for me important, and this is very good focus on what I need to do and where the next, and it's good, you know, the next, not figuring it out, but just discovering and doing the next piece of work. It's
kicking in and doing
very
the work.
delicious.
Yeah, that's where the key.
Thank you.
Where the key lies. Awesome.
All right, thank you.
Well, holding a
Yay.
space. Any other thoughts for you?
I got enough here to work with. I think no, I don't know what it would be right now. So,
cool.
Thank you.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, you know, you were actually on my list to call. You have been for a couple of weeks now, and I haven't called you. So if you're just driving, maybe when the show's over, I'll give you a quick call and what I was thinking about asking you about.
Okay.
So I'll do that when the show's over.
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Blessings.
Okay.
Delight to talk with you and holding the
Bye.
space. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
And I, okay, bye.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention Iowa, so there's a possibility to get back in Missouri
Doug,
if it doesn't.
Say that once again.
All
Don't
right.
cut out there just for a second, but your voice is back. Say it again, please.
I was just saying that when you try to call me back after the show, I might be where I can't get coverage in deep Iowa,
That's
but
okay.
I will be able to call you back later, or it'll work later.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, that's fine.
When I hit
That's
Missouri.
fine. Cool.
Okay.
All right. Holding space for
Bye.
blessings. All right.
We'll try.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
And we have another hand up.
Great. Cool.
And it is
Let's say hello.
541. I believe this is Celinda.
Yes, it is. I hope.
Well, hey
Doug
there,
is
Miss
still
Celinda.
on
How are
the
you, young
line.
lady?
I'm fine, thank you.
Awesome.
And you
Welcome.
as well.
We're rocking.
I'm hoping.
Having fun with kids, grandkids.
Good, good. We're in our intermountain merry-go-round of spring here. One day it'll be 70, and the next day it's snowing. So I hope you're out in the garden for me, because I'm not getting there yet. In fact, the old-timers stand around and laugh at the new-timers who run out in February, March, and April to plant their gardens, because the old-timers just sit and say, well, we'll start in May.
Patience, 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 eh?
Really. You learn after you've been through the mill a few times. You learn to go with the grind.
Right.
Whatever.
Well, we are not.
Day.
Yeah, we're not. We're at the beach in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, with kids for a week's vacation. So we're not at home in the garden. Although yesterday our son called us and he went over. We had left 3 days ago, Jeannie. We were on our fourth day, and before we left, I had cleaned out all the asparagus and we took it with us. And Jeannie caught him on the camera and had a conversation with him. He'd gone over to have Aria pick some of her tomatoes that were ripening, and we asked him to go ahead and pick the asparagus, and he had picked these 2.5 foot long, just gorgeous asparagus that had grown over the 4 days. So our asparagus are doing well, and fortunately, no more snow days, or there've been some chilly nights, but nothing near frost for the last couple of weeks. So
you must be about a zone 7. We're a zone 5 here, from the sounds of it. I hope that Doug is still on able to hear the radio show, because I had, first of all, I want to thank him for his offering, because he certainly bingoed on a lot of my issues, and so now I know where my work is in this moment of time, because I've been working very diligently. And I wanted to comment on a couple of things, and then I wanted to make a suggestion for your reading of yesterday also.
Okay.
I think I'll do the suggestions first, because it's very fast. Just in the very last part where we're going through the love, the very last things about forgiveness, never forgiving someone else. You said that 3 times. The third time you said, never forgive anyone else or yourself. And I would encourage you to put or yourself with the other 2 as well, because for people like me who are so guilt-ridden and so convinced that we're wrong, we're at fault, which probably all of us are, but for us, which really drives our train of being guilty for everything, for the whole world's problems, basically. And so I think that would be helpful to reinforce, especially people who are really into self-hatred. That would be very, very helpful for them to just have that reinforcement. And then who was the gentleman that wanted you to get published to his publisher? Was it James Redfield or something?
Oh, Jim
like
Redfield,
that?
Yeah. Celestine Prophecy.
And of the Celestine Prophecy and Prophecy, and the 10th, whatever the 10th thing is that he wrote. Anyway, he made a good comment about when we are disconnected from our source energy, we then only have access to feeding on others' life energy. And if the others will allow us to feed on their life energy because, for whatever reason, control, or because they feel they must throw themselves under the bus for the other and sacrifice, that's the codependent enabling rescuer kind of relationship and the victim relationship. And that really triggered for me to remind me that, hey, if we're feeding from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and right and wrong and control, there's no access available to us to feed from the tree of life and get the food that we already have in us. So I wanted to share that, because that was a good insight for me this morning, a reminder. If I need somebody out there.
I was going to ask you to just repeat that again. I didn't quite keep up with every aspect of the thought you just shared, and I'd like to.
Oh, about the 2 trees in the Garden of Eden? Is that where you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's like if I am so entranced in eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it cuts me off from even being able to access the tree of life, which is in myself.
Right.
And by
trying to figure it
being
out.
which is in myself. And so I can't directly feed on my source, because that's the tree of life. If I'm eating the fruit of the tree of life, of love, then I am at peace whether I'm with or away from the other person. But otherwise, and even in relation to your forgiveness sheet, which was a wonderful revelation for me, when I was looking at the goal one time, and I want ta-da-da-da-da, so I can be ta-da-da-da-da-da. And what I realized was, because I need, or I want, or so I can be. And so, for example, if I want your love 24/7, 365, so I can feel loved or be loved, or they're both need statements. And need statements and want statements are lack statements. It's coming from a place of not having. And for me, that was a real important insight that I have.
Cool.
Oh, and so I don't need to do anything like the Way of Mastery says. You need do nothing, because you don't have choice when you need to do something.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share that. I really thank you, Doug, very much for your work that you did this morning with Michael. And your facilitation is sweet. I really value facilitation now, because a facilitator does nothing but draw out from the person, him or herself, the clarity of what they're trying, the clarity that they're trying to find. And at the same time, the facilitator gets a healing. That's pretty
absolutely.
amazing.
We teach best that which we most need to learn.
That's right. So blessings to you both, and enjoy your vacation.
All right, young lady, you have a blessed one.
And thank you for listening.
All right, take care. Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. Nothing like community. Pretty amazing. Well, Miss Jeannie?
We don't have any other hand up, no comments in the chat room. I did get a couple of emails. One, I won't go into detail on it. She's going to try to call in tomorrow. But the other one had asked about in integrity killing like copperheads or rattlesnakes or whatever versus letting them live.
Can you say more about that?
Well, just wanting to know if you could, in integrity, kill them, take their life, versus just letting them go.
Well, first order of business is, am I functioning out of fear? If I'm functioning out of fear, then I'm probably going to have difficulty making a true choice. If I've cleaned up my fear, if I've chosen to claim this piece of land, let's say for me, if Ari Rain were going out into our gardens and there was a life form there that was a threat to Ari Rain or to ourselves, my first order of business would be to do the best I could do to remove it, intact, alive. And if that weren't possible, then I would feel that the highest service I could do to life, which would be, of course, paying more attention and perhaps some people would say giving more value to my life than this copperhead snake or what have you, then I would feel clean and clear about ending the life of the copperhead snake. That's just my personal, how I would feel connected to it. And it would feel like service to our family and to life in that case. And that's about all I have in that regard. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
No, good on that too.
Say it
so
again.
We have 7. I said, no, I'm good with that too. So
okay.
We have 7 minutes. If someone has a question, press 1.
Time for one more question or any comment or thought. We're not quite. I'm actually right up to just before showtime. I'm doing some last final touches on this article, and we'll be putting it in the newsletter. So if you listened to it yesterday and it impacted you in any particular way that was meaningful to you, I'd like to hear it. And or if there's some part of it that what I'm looking to do is to give a whole picture that we can hand to people in conflict, especially in the dire kind of conflict that is happening in war zones today, that we can support people who are suffering in those kinds of conflicts, being able to connect to the presence of love and to realize that the conflict is a reflection. It is not a cause of what's happening in their minds. That's the basic point I'm working to get across. And what I know is if we can get enough people who are in war mode, and I have had people who are literally warriors, literally military, who when they first heard me speak were just, you're crazy. But over time we're able to build the brain cells to have the experience of themselves as love, which was something they had given up, and to experience others as love, and therefore be able to let loose of that mindset of attack and destroy. I mean, when you think that one statistic we came up with from the Canadian group researching war and peace, telling us that 3600 BC to today, 1978 were their numbers, they estimated 2 billion people dead in war. It's like, how much pain, how much suffering, and how much waste. I mean, how much waste of resources. If you could imagine what it costs in suffering and pain and just economic loss, homes and buildings and resources invested to kill other people. Just imagine if we could take everything that it cost to do that much war since 3600 BC in 1978. What if we could have added that back into the abundance in the world? Could there be anybody, and could there be such a thing as a third world country? Could it exist? No. I mean, there'd be so much abundance in this world. So much destruction that didn't happen. And then add to that, when you think of 2 billion people having been murdered over the last 5,800 years or so, 6,000 years, what kind of invention, what kind of genius, what kind of world would we be living in with those incredible beings that have been lost due to this violent mindset called war and enemy, recognizing again that enemy is just a perceptual construct in the mind. How different could it have been? And if we can get a critical mass of people who will make that shift, how different will it be going forward? To have all of those intact lives and all of the intact wealth that they created, rather than being destroyed and shattered, simply added to the world. How much different would this game of life be? It's unfathomable. much more wealth to take care of starving children. You know, when you realize we live in a country where there's still kids today, you know, and with the wealth of this country, with the increase in the number of billionaires, and there's still kids going to bed without food in their bellies. Like, how is this even possible? And if we can engage minds who are helping to create that, which means all of us, and understanding from the perspective of physics, and that this man Yeshua was a physicist who said a little leavening leavens the whole loaf. If we can just get a small number of people who will become the leavening for this rather simple change of mind, from the projection of violence and war to the healing of violence and war, how different would it be? So here to hold the space for that, invite you to join us in holding. Oh, go ahead, sweetie.
I was just going to say, we did have a hand go up, but maybe you can call again tomorrow because we're down to less than a minute. But I just wanted to make the announcement. Michael is going to be live in Sarasota, Florida, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday this week. And I've put the link to the flyer in the notes for today. And you can also go to the website and click on events or schedule, and you can pick it up there as well.
And keep an eye on it. There may be some changes in the venue we're looking at right now, so I'm not sure how that's going to unfold. We're like working on it this morning and into this afternoon, so if you just keep posted there, and or if you're planning to join us and you haven't let us know yet or registered with the medical facility we're doing it at, if you would drop Jeannie an email, JEANIE, at whyagain.org. If you drop her an email and let her know, we'll make sure that you're notified of any changes. So if you're planning to join us and you haven't notified us yet, please do, so that we can keep you posted on any changes in venue that might occur. So we're working on that. In the meantime, have the best year yet of your eternal life. It's an awesome gift